Well, hello. To be quite honest, I don't exactly remember where we left off. Was it here? I think it was. Actually, I don't remember these statues. I don't remember any of this. Well, maybe I do remember it. Look at that one. I can see in some cases where people say, yeah, they built into the hillside. I can see that in some cases. I can't see like you build a doorway like this into the hillside though. Like, no. That is ludicrous. Something else going on here. Not to mention you get the visible old foundation here. We're just gonna hide that with wood siding and it'll all be okay. This not looking very American at all. I would gander that's somewhere in Italy. And my gander would be wrong. Oh, this unkempt little alley piece is known as the William C. Barker Business Building. The present owner is a skin diving equipment business, which I guess I don't know what that is. Prime example of a business building from the 1820s. And that right there should explain everything. There is high demand for business building examples from the 1820s, especially one with a tailor shop on the ground floor and his dwelling in the upper floors. And this fits that bill perfectly. In 1819, Thomas Addison, the math version, sells this for $300 to Thomas Howard, the cabinet maker. And it was for a certain lot of land containing all the land that Gideon Hull purchased from John Burroughs and John and Sarah Jenkins. The part hereby conveyed being same I bought of Joseph Hull in 1817 and of Elizabeth Hull in 1817. It says in the deed book, more like dead book. Mr. Thomas Howard then turned around and sold it to Solomon H. Kenyon, physician. It being the same estate I purchased of Thomas Addison et al. In 1819, also from a deed book. Mr. Solomon H. Kenyon then sells it for $1,000 at a pure loss to Amos Collins. A certain lot of land being the same I purchased of Thomas Howard together with an unfinished building in the deed book. Amos Collins sells it for $1,774, making a nice profit 1 year later to Jonathan Pike, who then sells it for $1,600, taking a loss to William C. Barker. They say it was erected in 1825 to 26. We've already done all this. Hold up. Well, to be honest with you, I don't remember where I left off. So I guess we'll just have to get through it together, right guys? We're all in it together. Like Madonna when she took that milk bath at the start of the pandemic, remember? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Mr. WhisperJack remembers. Her sitting there in the milk bath talking about the great equalizer because we all go down in the ship together. Back when celebrities were losing their minds at the beginning of all that. I haven't forgotten. Neither should you. Mr. Barker, please move your house. Thank you. Now then, since I don't remember where we left off, and since you don't either, I'm gonna go until I see something that's not familiar. We'll go that way. And this doesn't look familiar to me, so... Look, I've been through some things the past few weeks, okay? Some things. They've been trying to shut me down. They messed up my electronic equipment. My dog ate my headphones. I got bit by a black widow. You name it, it's happened. Well, if you name those three things. This is that's the one. The Cyril Dodge House. It is a frame house, a typical example of the smaller buildings of the period, with unusually fine detail in the stairway and in the materials. The house, which was built between 1786 and 1789 by Cyril Dodge on a property leased from Moses Brown, bought by Nicholas Brown, with the Dodge House thereon, and occupied by him, his wife, Avis, and their daughter Hope. It's been said that the famous John Brown stayed here while building his house at Poker Street. It was owned by the guardian of Hope Brown, who was later married here. And Miss Avis Brown gave the trees planted in the First Baptist churchyard opposite and contributed funds for maintenance of the grounds. See the trees? Aren't they beautiful? I don't. In any case, it's now occupied by the art club, and in 1906, the survey tells us the fireplace mantels were removed from the parlors and installed in the house of Morris K. Washburn, that trifling crook. And 3 years later, the architects Sheldon, Stone, Carpenter, and Wilson, also the supergroup, removed both chimneys and all remaining fireplaces and mantels, except the dining room mantel. They raised the building 1 full story and built a grocery store at the street level. It's difficult to imagine why in the world they would do that, but that's what we're told. And at that time, extensive repairs were made, said the most unnecessary sentence ever. They connect the houses to each other through an upper brick doorway, called it a party wall, put on party hats, and they partied. Some of that stuff I definitely added for color. Can't tell you which part though. Can't do it. You figure it out. You do it. This right here is the Dexter Asylum. It was erected through a bequest of Ebenezer Knight Dexter, made in 1824. Of course, I often request large chateaus to be built for me. It's a wonder it hasn't happened. It was situated on a 40-acre tract on what was once his farm, but is now the heart of the most attractive residential section of the city. Attractive residential sections of the cities don't have hearts, Mr. Survey.
How could you be so heartless?
It is now demolished, I'll have you know, this Dexter Asylum. Here's an even better picture. Gotta love that high-res photography. You know what I'm saying? They say that a man named John Holden Green was the architect. And that's all the information we're given. We can speculate, though, on the vast array of electroshock therapy that no doubt the hapless victims inside suffered for simply wanting to retain their lifestyle. I'll move on. And right after that, we have what they call as the Cyrus Ellis House, an example of a two-story frame house with one brick end wall, built about 1800. To mine, Brian, what that means is they found it with one functioning wall, and they built the rest, and they moved right in. Just like what happened to my old neighbor. At one point in life, it was a happy three-walled and no-roofed structure, concrete slab with a chimney, surrounded by a beat-down wooden fence and a bunch of 6-foot-tall weeds. A perfect place for the homeless, harmless people to hang out and do all sorts of manner of fun games and tricks that they knew with Dr. Needles and spoons and other cool objects. I used to watch them through the window and giggle. I especially liked leaving my girlfriend at home unattended while they fiddled around in the backyard next to the sagging fence, no doubt eyeing the delicious oranges that were weighing down the branches of my fruit trees. It made me feel comfortable. Then one day, the dastardly lady moved in, and she did the unthinkable. She repaired the fence. She built the fourth wall. She put a roof on it, and moved in. And all my homeless friends were never to be seen again. So you see, America, the person you were before is like a painted flower. It never wilts, and it will take you to places you never expected not to visit. Information about this one other than that it was built early and made of clapboards and there's nice radiators. Rhode Island is a little light on the descriptions, as in there are none. But after California's long-winded books on bridges and waxing philosophic on concrete, the men who love them for 50 to 100 pages, this is kind of a nice break. This here is it's John Church House on John Street. You got the deeds here talking about this two-family double house. Joseph Baker sells it to William Church. Billy Church sells it to John Church. Billy Church sells the other lot to Levi Pierce, who was a Mason, and then he sold it back to John Church until 1848, when he sold them all to Benjamin Church. All this deed stuff. Reminds me of those long chapters of the Bible where it's like, Josiah begot 3 sons, Uzziah, Taliah, and begot 3 sons, Josmussen, Rasmussen, and Peter. Oftentimes it feels like those names, they're just made up. This impressive sumbitch is the George H. Corliss House on Prospect Street. It's a large brick house, a prominent home for a Providence industrialist. Let's check it out. Look at them windows. For real. Just look at them. You're not looking. Look at why. Oh, I see. It's owned by Brown University. Well, a university owning a historical home? No. It's weird because it says here it's vacant. In any case, the namesake of this house, Mr. Corliss, was born in 1817 in eastern Washington County, New York. His father was a physician and was able to give his son a common school education, such as times afforded, and then send him to the academy at Castleton. His first employment was as a school teacher, later going into trade. Found his life work in the improvement of the steam engine, where he built the Corliss Steam Engine Company. He was awarded the Rumford Medal in 1870 by the Academy of Arts and Science, the highest prize at the Paris Exposition in 1867, and the Grand Diploma of Honor at the Vienna Exposition of 1873. So we got a real D.S. hobnobber on our hands, folks. It's an elegant, large brick house, 3 stories high with a 4-story corner tower, okay? Some residential properties in these I've noticed rather astutely. Most of these just have 2 little pictures. I gotta go track them down. Not a complaint, just pointing out the differences. Okay. Now we got the James Brown Warehouse right there on Water Street. Example of the commercial building along the Providence waterfront. You just gotta have one example for everything, I guess. Curious to see how many of these are still around. I imagine quite a few. This is the Henry Dyke House Also on Prospect Street. It's been the home of several locally prominent architects. This one's got all sorts of fanciest decor inside and passed around apparently amongst some B-list celebrities that I've never heard of. And just the amount of bricks it would take to construct even one of these has got to be 100,000 bricks, building this size. Does no one stop to question where the bricks maybe came from? When they do, they can ask the friend's house or school. Sorry, friend's school on Hope Street, which is this one. This is the work of architect John Holden Green as well. They say she's built in 1819 on land donated by Moses Brown. Makes another appearance. Guy's in every freaking house in this survey. Moses Brown was, of course, prominent in Quaker affairs and a brother of house. This one, but I can't say for certain because there's no data. But that street sure is kind of wonky. And speaking of wonky, this one taking a page right out of the Pennsylvania fashion book. Why, with its lopsided, crooked slabs, garbled and twisted fences, and warped planks, it looked like something out of a Lemony Snicket novel. These are the stairs where the Pillsbury Doughboy got blown to smithereens by a shotgun blast. You can still see where his doughy innards splattered against the banister. Rated R. And here in this room you have the very window that Peter Pan used to come visit the Wendy bird. It's been preserved. I heard they're going to make a muffin factory out of it. And this guy looks like he's pretty much fell over sideways. He's like he just got the shit beat. Wait, where'd he go? I wasn't done. Wow, close up. Normal. Busted. Kind of a coincidence. Usual little fireplace buddies. Look how cute they are. And this part looking a lot less put together than the old Newport County, isn't it? And this is an industrial complex. This is the American Screw Company, which these buildings were built between 1840 and 1873. On land sloping upwards from the Moshassuck River. I'd put money on the fact that I said that one wrong. These buildings are 3 or 4 stories in height, mostly rectangular, with gable roofs and protruding stair towers. The first one, never mind. What's important is that these buildings served until 1860 when the Eagle Screw Company merged with the American Screw Company. So basically, it became screwed together. Between 1865 and 1870, the buildings survived intact, and they were believed to be designed by Alpheus Morse, a prominent Providence architect. However, in July of 1971, a fire swept through the complex, leaving just charred shells. And today, none of the buildings remain. And does that look like it has any business doing in a screw factory? This one either. I mean, what the hell is that? Look how clearly sunken in these look. And that chimney alone, my god, how many freaking bricks would it take to make that thing? And this one is amazing. And then you get this portion of it. I don't know what happened here, but it doesn't look like a screw factory. These buildings are all wonky. And look at this guy. He's horrified. He's like, like a pig. What's behind door number 1? Or is it door number 2? Or is it door number 3? Or is it the door with the middle finger on it? Which one will you choose? And it's always a little heartbreaking to see these old buildings like this. These old churches or power plants or whatever they were. Yeah, I'm talking to you. You ain't part of no screw factory. Screw that idea. And this is the world's safest looking pedestrian bridge. Seriously, I voted. I'm the only one that showed up. What? You guys weren't there. You don't get to say it, Jimmy. This thing looked like it's completely sinking in. I thought they said sheep products. I was about to say, hey, you're not supposed to say the quiet part out loud, you know what I'm saying? These trees look like they're actually hugging it or attacking it. And maybe they are. Maybe the slow motion war that the trees have waged against us since dawn eternal is slowly coming to fruition. I can't believe how amazing this screw factory is. And the fact that it's just completely abandoned at this point. No one can find any use for all these old world buildings, huh? Find that hard to frickin' believe. But that's what I'm told, and I guess I did no choice but to just absorb it into my truth. Yeah, right. A series of unnamed barn houses here. My Aunt Karen's carpet. And, hold up. What do we have here? Hello. Why, I didn't see you there. Whatever are you doing, you most attractive little heater? Looks like he's reaching his arm up there like, well, yeah, she got there. He's just a little, he's not a little fix-it guy. A sweetheart, really. Very turtley with his leathery neck here. Kind of guy that's always got like a little, corncob pipe in his mouth or something. And his head's swiveled around here. This is his hat. And he's got his arm. This is his turtle shell. And he's got his arm out here, up the chimney. And he's like, feeling around up there, and he's like, ooh, well, it might B, you got a bird up there. Oh, most God.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Repairman. Whatever would we do without you?
Besides, be less attracted. And I suppose, taking a back step into the interior of this home, you start to see that, yes, indeed, they could possibly make some sacrifices to preserve the area. I mean, these houses look like they have they just took all the furniture from the whole neighborhood and just didn't know what to do and just jammed it and lined it up in the hallways. Just so much of it. Like, who hangs out in the hallway like that? Like, who would ever use these chairs just facing each other? Apparently, I don't understand the joys of a sitting parlor. Nor do I ever want to know.
Go ahead, have a look. Find out who you really are. Magic mirror on the wall. What's the greatest Mandela effect of them all?
How about the one that says,
"Hello, Clarice," that now says, "Good morning"?
That's a good one. Real good one. We all remember it wrong. I mean, these clowns, they play game. They pick these prominent quotes from famous movies, change it, and try to tell us that we have false memories. Now, why would they want to condition us to think that we had false memories? I don't know. I just can't think of anything. They want us to forget, right? I mean, I think they'd like you to forget a whole bunch. This whole idea that we've had this body of elected leaders that represents us, and that we therefore represent some sort of credible, peaceful, progressive, world-changing government structure is a joke. The only difference is that now our voices are louder. Now we have platforms where we can amplify the things that happen to us, and now people are starting to compare notes. For example, I'm not sure if many people recall, not that I was alive or anything, or even a twinkle in someone's eye at the time, but it was a time during World War II when our government force closed all the gold mines. Force closed all of them. So they could focus on other minerals and things. And it devastated the gold mining industry. Now, I'm sure plenty of men lost their entire fortunes, their jobs, their everything. But you don't hear about them, do you? No, you do not. Now, mainstream media's still got a stranglehold on the information, but at least we hear about the Dutch farmers and things like this happen. Or have the ability to. Back then, what window did they have? And so it's interesting to see some of these people who look like deep state actors sent off into these fringe areas, the realm of ghost town, and sort of do cleanup duty. In that, I mean controlling the history. Usually they'll do something like this. There'll be some rich guy, some completely connected racketeer, whatever, baron. Got his hands in all sorts of things. And one day, he passes on, and his wife passes on. And usually there's no heir. And they donate all the land and the house and all their wealth to the university. There is sometimes an unmarried daughter that is the last in the family line. She's often eccentric, stays in the house for an exceptionally long time, gets involved in the local history, the local library, is a local collector, somehow gets a stranglehold on the narrative of the area and rides it out. And then when she passes, the property is willed to the schools. I can't say that I know a single person alive who, if they were going to write a will, had any substance of wealth, would leave it to the universities. Maybe some dyed-in-the-wool professor. You'll see that storyline happen over and over and over again, just like I have. This little cheeky guy is a William Ashton Jr. house on 368 Benefit Street, built in the 1790s, allegedly. Not sure how I got so turned around here. This is the General Ambrose house. Ambrose Burnside, Civil War hero, industrialist, governor of Rhode Island, and senator from Rhode Island. Work done by Alfred Stone. I must say this survey is very interesting. We don't get much detail. We don't get many pictures. We get one or two, and then a brief little explanation of who owned it and how they got it. Just a little custody chain, if it exists. And that's pretty much it. I find this to be a little bit perplexing. And they all named after people. Like this one, for example, the Tully Bowen, which is a large stone mansion built by Thomas Teft in 1853. You can buy that. This is the Seth Adams house, built in 1823. No other information, we're told. Rather anticlimactic front door entrance, really, clashing with the rest of the style. See, these houses were so lively and noisy in a way, but kind of inspiring. One can't help but wonder about the term Victorian, allegedly from the Queen Victoria. But I mean, there's a Lake Victory everywhere, and there's Victoria this, Victoria that. Can't help but wonder if it coincided with the time when we were defeated, suffered some humiliating defeat, and so to mock us, they named us the Victorian era. Well, we're going to have to change all that. I don't know the call signs on them, it's a little frustrating. How am I supposed to accurately mock you guys if you don't have your name tags on? This here's the Robinson Hall in Brown University, looking stunning, and, like there's more to it, underground. So this used to be the library. Just look at the interior here. It's incredible. Terrible library. Clearly had some other purpose than to do with books. I highly doubt that. Now it's just known as Robinson Hall. This, of course, will be the City Hall. You don't get to have a building that nice unless you're the City Hall. Come on, bro. What do you think this is? And it's absolutely preposterous. It stands out so obvious as something from a much greater area. The architect that built the Chateau was E.L. Anthony. But of course it was a competition, judged by two local architects, Alpheus Morse and Henry Childs. 21 designs were submitted, but there can only be one winner. Large masonry building built in the 1870s, an academic Renaissance revival manner, characteristic of the period, we are told. What period's that? And these hallways are absolutely ridiculous, over the top for what would be needed for a building like this. I do not approve. There's just so many amazing old world mansions here. I'm really quite blown away by the sheer number of them and how intact they are. I don't know that they're intact because I'm looking at these pictures that were taken in like the 70s, but it would appear that they are. That one's got John McCain by it. Quickly throw an egg at it.
Or cozy up in the piano room.
What's his name?
Paula.
We slow out. Consider yourself part of my family. This here is Dr. William J. Kinghouse, Billy J, as no one used to call him. This is a large wooden house built in 1840s, representative of the Greek Revival influence on houses in the College Hill area. Now, usually houses like this, and this one is no exception, passed off to the fraternity for yet another generation of brainwashing. That's my hot take. But I digress. The date of erection was probably built for Dr. King between 1845 when he bought the property and 1847 when he's listed at this address. That'd be fair to assume. It was remodeled in 19 under the direction of Mr. and Mrs. Donald Whitcomb to adopt it from its previous use as a fraternity to its present use with 1 apartment on the first floor and 3 on the second. So yeah, added a kitchen, another entrance, yada yada yada. Other than that, this is an example of the conservative handling of the Greek Revival in Providence within Ionic entrance porch. Corner pilasters. Does that fascinate you? And no known architect. I'd like to point out the same thing time and time again. And I'll continue to point out every observation of the rather skewed foundation, grade, elevation. Next up, we have the Edward Pierce house. Are you beginning to sense a pattern here in Rhode Island? I am. It goes like this. Name of person, and then house. Boosh. Yeah, I know. Genius. Took me forever to figure that out. This house was built in 1853. Thomas Teft, we're told. A large, compact, 3-story brick building with brownstone trim. Very typical of Teft's work, we are assured. This one was demolished in 1960, however. I see the basement window here giving off much light. Thank God for that little slit. Slit, I said. Not talking about your granddaughter. Get her under control. The Hope Club is the group that demolished this, despite the fact that they lived together on Benevolent Street. And now this lot is for parking. What an insult. William Pierce sells to Arthur B. Watson that lot of land with all buildings and improvements bounded by Benefit Street by Henry Hidden and Elizabeth Dunnell, by the Hope Club, by Benevolent Street, in Providence City Hall. Give me a f***ing break. Tommy Teft, Hope Club, Benevolent Street, Providence Hall, Henry Hidden. What is this? A fiction? Because it seems like it. This is the Samuel B. Richmond house, he said, continuing the trend. The date of this house is not indicated. Any documents. According to local tradition, this house was built for Samuel Richmond, and it would appear correct, stylistically, to date the house shortly after he acquired the property in 1817. 200-year-old house. Quite astonishing. These wood frame homes, often, I do believe, were built by modern people. Often, the bottom always being of different, sturdier build and older build, with older windows. And the top portion, yeah, framed down, covered with siding and all that. But there is just a grandeur to the art, to the craft that we didn't have. And I just don't believe that we Had it briefly and then lost it. Who are these fucking doofus? Make sure you get my mustache, my most distinguishing trait. It looks like a bug on an upper lip.
Here's Granny looking down your blouse, just like she used to.
And golly, Bob howdy. Here we find ourselves at our four-pronged church tower. Or as they are so colloquially, locally, by me only, known as, and by... Holy good Gertie. Just look at the length of them columns. Just look at that Freemasonic black and white checker floor. What a beauty. And here you have these amazing organs blasting the sound waves through the audience. No one here at the time, but I'm sure they're on their way. What a striking building. And there just ain't no denying it, bruh. This bad boy is St. John's. Or at least it was. Now it's the Cathedral of St. John, at least at the time of this writing, which was 50 years ago. It has been the Cathedral Church of the Rhode Island Diocese. John Holden Green, that same frickin' guy, given credit for this one. There was an earlier building on this site, you don't say, that was demolished in 1810. Then on June 5th this same year, the cornerstone of this building was laid, and it was finished a year and 6 days later. Amazing. On 6/11/1811, June 11th, 1811, by John Holden McGreen. They say 5 years later they added a chandelier, 30 years later the Allen family gave him a clock, and 40 years later a gallery organ was installed. I say the whole thing sounds dubious. Yeah, I'm not buying it. Great looking building though. Look at this bad mamma jamba. Good God, the wealth here is just pretty outstanding. This beauty is the Robert Taft House on 154 Hope Street. They claim it was built in 1895. The property is taxed to Bryant College Incorporated. Of course it is. The architects were Stone, Carpenter, and Wilson. Now it's used for offices. The principal rooms have been altered to accommodate this new office use. Hardcore office, I might add. It was created, this building, which is, of course, we are told, an example of the revival of the late 18th and 19th century architectural forms. Similar to the one that John Brown designed for himself, it is at this point that I would like to express, formally, my disappointment that we only get one photograph of each. And we must stand on the outside to sort of look at it and say things. Are there any homes that aren't mansions on Rhode Island? This is the Eliza Ward House. A very large brick house built soon after 1814 with very elegant interiors. This is on George Street. And aside from the transfer of deed, odd that Miss Eliza Ward leaves the estate to Moses Brown. Between 1814 and 1823, probably built. Yet I seem to see, with my little eye here, hints of hidden little archways here. You see that? Maybe that's a breach, but maybe not. The old brick mansion. Here's the gorgeous doorway with the little cute little phoenix sky right inside there. And the door knocker, blocker. This would be the rather less intriguing back door. From the interior, interesting hinge work here, and quite formidable for the time. A lovely little sitting area, and at least we get to see inside this one. Painted walls and things. Hey, little guys. Roll with survey be complete without a photograph of the mantel. And that's a curious picture. On first glance, you might think this would be a photograph of, say, Italy. In fact, I almost believe these pictures are of America. Curious. A witch! I don't believe I've ever seen that before. A drain in the floor? And now you do. So now... Here is the house with no name. Just kidding, it's the Serwin Robinson house. Gotcha. You thought it was something new. You did. But no, you were wrong. Do you know what this house is? I shall tell you what this house is, since there's only one friggin' picture property allowed in this king block or whatever. Right now, it's not so much a house as it is a beauty salon, a Newport seat and bulb supply, one of 4 buildings that comprise a distinguished commercial street. The first... Wait a second. This ain't right. Forget I said all that. Fucking mixing my notes up, dude. This is the Thomas Jenkins house. Not much is known about him, other than that he wants to talk some shop at any given opportunity. He erected in 1856, allegedly. But forget about that. Let's talk about Thomas Jenkins. He's born in Cumberland, Rhode Island in 1818. Graduated from Brown University. Studied law with the Honorable Samuel Y. Atwell. Admitted to the bar in 1840. Became a partner of Edward H. Hazard, something, Esquire, something, and was a most successful lawyer. He was sent to Congress and served 8 years. He served the Judiciary Committee and the Patents, of which he was the chairman. Civil reform, bankrupt law, famous throughout the country. Succeeded in obtaining passage of the bill that made the appointment of cadets to the military school at West Point dependent upon competitive examination. Degree of Doctor of Laws was given to him in 1873 by Brown University. His wife was Mary Jane, daughter of Delotus Fuller of Attleboro, Massachusetts, whom he married in June 1842. He died in 1875. Why did we learn about him? I don't know. I guess he lived here. Who the fuck knows? Fucking surveys. Here's another angle from the house. All right, we get more than one look at it. Here's the inside. This is where Thomas put his parasol, I guess. I don't think this is him, but I mean, I guess we could have had a congressman wearing a tutu. What do I know? Got chili learns here. No, don't mind them. Oh yeah, we've been in here before when all the fireplaces were screaming and stuff. They're not doing that anymore.
No justice, no peace.
Oh, this here is a Stephen D. Metcalf house. Keeping in tune with the proclivity for all the homes in Rhode Island to be named after a person. Personally, I'd rather name the house something completely entirely different. But I don't live in Rhode Island, do I? No, I don't. And if I did, I'm pretty sure the Puritan Quakers wouldn't listen to me. 'Cause I'm an impure cracker. That's different. The construction of this is brick, despite what you see. And this building is significant, we're told, because, it's an example of the architecture with a central hall plan. Yeah, that's it. What a reach. But you know what? I'm glad Rhode Island's at least putting stuff on here. It also would fade into obscurity. This is the Charles Potts house. Significant for its being a brick house, designed by Thomas Tefft in the 1850s. You might be telling yourself, wait, we've seen that already. Yeah, but have you seen one that's been extensively altered afterwards? No, you have not. No, you have not. So pipe down, okay? My survey, I'm doing it. In the year 1900, under the influence of Colonial Revival, Colonial Revival, pardon me, many of the features were altered. Why, window frames were removed, which changed the shape of the window. The porch was changed, and the interiors were remodeled, and oh, it's just different, okay? His father was a sea captain, okay? That's why it's here, okay? Charles Potter's dad was a frickin' sea captain. Isn't that enough for you? God, can't it just be historic because it's old? Tough crowd. I'm looking off a tiny screen. Fuck off, Billy. Your name is Colonel Revival. This is the Kristen Sheldon warehouse. I threw you off. I threw the where in there. This is an example of a large masonry warehouse. Period. Okay? We didn't have one of those yet. Now we do. Mr. Deacon Joseph Sheldon bought this property. 1770. You weren't even alive. At the time, in 1779, Chase lists Christopher Sheldon as having an tolerable old house, wharf, and store. So it's old already in 1779, huh? Old already. Interesting. In the division of Christopher Sheldon's estate, he gives his property to Joseph Sheldon under the name of Joseph Cook. Wait a second. Joseph Cook? That name means something to me that I can't reveal to you publicly. So I'll leave you on that cliffhanger. And instead, we'll talk about, hell, I don't know. You do it. And I'm surprised. This might be the first dumpy building Rhode Island has shown us. Well, not the first, but pretty much the first. What's going on, Rhode Island? You really letting yourself go, huh? I'll judge whatever I want by the cover. This must be the shady side of town, where all the old robot parts hang out on the corner lot and stare at you as you walk by. If you think it beeped, it did. But I will see you. Beep, 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 beep.